Good evening, viewers and listeners. We are live, and as I said yesterday, finally, it's their time because it's draft time, which makes it our time. Welcome to day 2 of the 2022 NFL Draft Bible pre-draft show powered by Sports Illustrated. And I can tell you, we got to jump on here and get going. I got some great guests today, and I can tell you, our scouts are still on the road, getting ready to get 2023 on and pop in. But let's do this. Let's bring in my co-host, and we're ready to do it right now. There we go. We got Lorenz Leinweber, head scout here at the NFL Draft Bible, jumping in. And then, of course, we have our next host. Let's go ahead and bring her in. We like to call her, and this is her inaugural showing up here on the NFL Draft Bible show. This is Quick Draw, okay? Jen McGraw of the NFL Draft Bible. She's a contributor here, and she's also a Philadelphia area sports reporter. How you doing today, guys?
Doing great. I'm still, if I'm being honest, I'm still reeling from yesterday after the Eagles made that monumental trade for AJ Brown, which I know we'll get into. But I'm ready for night 2.
And let me ask you, Lorenz. So, how do you feel coming in here? Give me your intro statement.
I'm fired up, man. I love day 2. I love day 2 even more than day 1. Everybody knows my favorite is day 3, but this is really where championship teams are built. There's so many good talents on the board. I think all along, day 2 was the sweet spot of this 2022 NFL draft. So I'm fired up. I'm fired up to see where these selections go in just about an hour from now. Draft's the best time of the year. I've already said that yesterday, and we're at day 2. It's going to be exciting. Day 1 was awesome, and I think it's going to keep getting better from here.
It was absolutely ridiculous. This was the most trades we had in the first round ever. For ever in the NFL draft happened yesterday, and they were flying. Fast and furious. Another thing that I noticed as well is, they weren't playing around. Once you kind of figured it out, whoever was left, it was like they were running those cards. They were like, hey, Roger Goodell, here, I already know who I want. We don't have to wait anymore. They were handing those cards to Goodell. He was ready to announce, and it was just like back to back to back. And then, of course, with all the trading as well, teams were ready, locked, and loaded, to maneuver around to see which players that they really wanted. And I can tell you, we got some subjects to talk about today. We have 5 things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk and we're going to ask these questions. Who won the draft yesterday? Or which teams won the draft? We'll also talk about who missed the mark. Which teams missed the mark? Who kind of lost the draft, so to speak? It's hard to say you lost because you just got them. You don't know how well they'll do, but maybe who missed the mark. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about which player you most excited for, for which team that they went to. Also, we'll talk about today, and of course, a little bit going into the following day, Saturday, what gems are available. There are a lot of players who were going to go. There's a few players that were going to go first in the first round that did not make it. So we'll talk about who's left, best available players. Then we'll talk about, team strategies moving forward, what to look for. Teams have already made their initial first round selections. Now, with whatever's left, how well are they going to do, and who should they target? So we can go ahead and jump right into it. We got ladies first in the building. We got Jen McGraw, and we're going to ask her right off the bat. I mean, she has on her green, symbolizing maybe who she's going to say who won the day, according to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get to that last because I think in terms of just who won the draft itself, if we don't put in trades and everything into the equation, I I have to say the Ravens, because the Ravens year in and year out have just been able to dominate the draft, go in and get exactly who they need to get. But another two, I guess I should say two teams, another location, I guess, that really kind of showed up yesterday and really just got to work were the Jets and the Giants, obviously both two of New York's three football teams. The Jets, they got a whole bunch of great pieces to pair alongside Zach Wilson and to put on that defense to create some depth and to get something going, because obviously both teams really struggled offense and defensively last season. So I'm really excited to see some of the pieces that have went to those teams. I know obviously we'll touch on that later, but Sauce Gardner being one of them for the Jets, he is definitely going to be able to go in. He's quick. I've watched his film. He's somebody that the Jets could really utilize. Super explosive. And then of course the last team that I have to bring up is obviously the Eagles, just because I think the Eagles fans, as a fellow Eagles fan, we were expecting Howie to kind of fall off a little bit and not really be able to be as aggressive as he has been in years past and really show up and get the job done. But yesterday, nonetheless, he picked up Jordan Davis, a huge help to the Eagles defense already, I know of, because Fletcher Cox is an absolute beast, he's still getting older, so Jordan Davis can come right in under his wing and kind of just dominate from there. And then obviously that monumental trade of getting AJ Brown, the former wide receiver for the Titans, and also a Pro Bowl wide receiver. So the Eagles have a lot to look forward to, but the Jets and the Giants and the Ravens, I think, are also really three good teams that have also won the day yesterday.
I agree with you. I'm thinking, I'm like, they're giving Jalen Hurts no excuses. They're putting weapons around him. They're giving him, really a complete team to be successful with. And, I'm kind of sitting here because I'm a Washington fan. I'm here in Hampton Roads, Virginia. So, as I'm watching and I seen them pick Jordan, I seen them pick, the big boy out of Alabama, and I'm going, are you serious? I said, they re-signed London Fletcher to get him on there. I mean, London, the big guy on there. And then they wound up picking, these players that I feel are just going to continue the dominance for the Philadelphia Eagles. When you're talking about them being up front, and being just a dominant team up the middle. So they're going to continue to be dominant, especially with him joining the squad. And Lorenz, I mean, I know you were up all night. You say you had your coffee there, you had all the things, a Red Bull, did you make it? First of all, did you make it through the whole night?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was glad by the time pick 32 was in because it does get long. It was almost 6 a.m. But I made it through. Exciting first round, as you said. A couple of winners for me while we're on the topic. Man, I'm really excited about Joe Schoen in New York. This dude comes in the building. He takes over a football team with a massive following that hasn't won in a decade, right? Nobody's safe. Everyone's on the chop block. Daniel Jones doesn't get a fifth-year option extended. All those things. We got competition right out the gate, taking nothing for granted. We come into this draft and get, in my book, the best edge defender in the class in Kayvon Thibodeau. Oh, and then, by the way, we get the Alabama left tackle that is 6'6", 340 pounds, that has started for the Crimson Tide for the last 3 years since a true freshman. You kidding me? I mean, what a great haul for the New York Giants. Joe Schoen, his first draft night, calling the shots officially, coming from Buffalo. I think they had a lot of good people, obviously, building that team up to a Super Bowl contender. And now I'm really excited about this draft from Joe Schoen. Not ready to crown him just yet, because there is 6 more rounds to come, but I'm off to a heck of a start there with their 2 first-round picks. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, Brett Veach, good teams stay good, right? They identify Trent McDuffie. They have the massive need at cornerback. They jump up, they get their guy, and then they stick at 30, and they take another player with a first-round value on my board, George Karlaftis, who is just a tremendous technician, brings a lot of strength with him. He's not the sexy outside track kind of rusher, but that power rush prowess, that's what plays in the NFL. So I thought those 2 teams, in addition to all the teams you said, I think you guys are right about the Ravens. You're right about the Eagles. Those teams I was really impressed with what they were able to do last night.
We're talking about the Eagles, and then you talk about the Ravens, teams that won. I got to big up the Ravens, like Jen said, because Kyle Hamilton, I feel, is quite frankly probably the best player to probably the best location. I feel like him playing for Baltimore. I mean, they just signed the safety out of New Orleans, to a big contract, but he's going to be able to play that hybrid position. And I feel like, if they can, just implement him, he can be a huge chess piece moving forward for that defensive staff. So I was definitely looking forward to seeing where he was going to go. And, people want to talk about, oh, he's not all that fast. Sometimes I was listening to who was it today? It was TJ Hushmanzada. He said they don't understand that. People don't understand. So, oh yeah, maybe he's not all that fast. He said, but speed is nothing without control. He said a lot of times you get some of these players that are fast, but they don't know how to decelerate. He says, what speed if you can't decelerate going around the corners? So in football, there's a lot of that. It's not just, trying to blow by somebody. So I think definitely, looking at where some of these players went, and the receiver world was off the charts. But I got to come to you, Lorenz. You tell me, what kind of draft is this? We said, last year this was going to be an edge rushers draft. So what is it? What has it become? Is it an edge rushers draft? Is it a wide receiver draft? Or is it a offensive lineman draft?
Tell you what, last night it was all three. I mean, and not even as many edge rushers as I expected. So let's call it an offensive lineman draft. I think we had a big old run on wide receivers, but that was really just in the middle of the round. I think today we're going to see an edge rusher draft, and also some underrated that we're going to see today. Man, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks coming off the board here early and often in the second round. Couple teams that are going to be intrigued by the guys that are, whether they're still sitting in the green room like Malik Willis or Matt Corral, or they're waiting at home. I think there's going to be a couple of quarterbacks off the board here today, because yesterday we only had Kenny Pickett drafted.
And speaking of espionage at its highest level, all right, I was there at the Malik Willis pro day. Coach Tomlin was there, palling it up, laughing, like he's like, man, I see my quarterback of the future, everybody. He was the only or the visible head coach that was there that the cameras were on. So yes, he put on an act, and he made everybody feel like, Malik Willis was his guy, but then he turned, the tables and wound up picking Kenny Pickett, who actually, they used their stadium. So if anybody knows anything about Kenny Pickett, it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. And how about that? Like I said, espionage at its highest level, and, great for them. I think they got a quarterback. If Mitch Trubisky does falter anyway, they got a quarterback they can put in there, and can at least, I think he can run the basic parts of the offense, moving forward. And also, he was, my opinion, the best NFL ready quarterback, in the first round. So, or available for a first round pick. So let's talk about who missed the mark. I'm gonna come back to you, Jen. There are some teams that really did well. Actually, there's a team that a lot of them did well in the first round. So let's flip it around. Let's go ahead and put the focus on, or the scouting lens on, who didn't do well. Let's talk about some of the teams who we'll be talking about for the next couple months until the season starts. So where are you going to play this guy? So talk to me.
Yeah, so I was kind of disappointed first and foremost with the Packers yesterday, and now obviously I will get into this discussion as well, but like right off the bat, one of the biggest things they need is to get Aaron Rodgers some help, because, Devontae Adams is no longer there. And Aaron Rodgers, like over the years, he's just badly been needing help. And I believe it's been 20 years since the Packers have drafted a wide receiver or any sort of help in that regard in the first round. So the Packers really missed the mark for me in that regard, because that's a piece that they crucially need to be able to help Aaron Rodgers out and be able to get further than, just the couple of playoffs that they've been able to do in recent years. Now, obviously, the talent that they got was great, and I'm really excited to see where Devontae Wyatt can take this team. But I was kind of looking for a wide receiver. I was kind of looking for the Packers to get a little aggressive yesterday. They had picks 22 and 28. I was kind of hoping that they would use one of them, try to move up a little bit, try to get into that wide receiver mix that Lorenz was talking about in the middle of the draft. So that's a team that I thought really missed the mark for me. But with that being said, too, a lot of those wide receivers and a lot of those talent that the Packers have gotten in the past have come from the second, third, and fourth round. I mean, obviously, like I mentioned before, Devontae Wyatt was not a first round pick. So the Packers are definitely going to probably rebuild if they hope to rebuild in the second, third, fourth rounds and so on. But I think just in the first round, they kind of missed the mark for me. And then another team that was kind of in that similar boat, and not to talk, about my rival, but I was kind of hoping that the Cowboys would play a little more aggressive as well, just because I thought that they would be a perfect fit with Zion Johnson. But obviously they went after Tyler Smith, and Tyler Smith he's got some struggles, but obviously the Cowboys are willing to work around that. But I was hoping that the Cowboys would also play a little more aggressive, because last year they were definitely very aggressive in going out and getting that defensive talent, such as Micah Parsons, who, as we know, ended up having an explosive year. So those are just two teams that I was hoping for a little more aggression and a little more something out of the first round.
Well, I'm not going to hold back on the Cowboys. All right. I'm going to tell you like this. The Cowboys, I think, really blew it. I mean, the young man does have some talent, but I think they could have got him in the second or the third round. There's no mystery for them, to have to put up with linemen that get a lot of penalties. He led the team in offensive penalties, and they said there's a lot of work that needs to be done, from a footwork and a hand placement kind of a situation. So, and they're talking about putting him at left tackle, and I just see him having a hard time dealing with these NFL defensive ends. I really do. I know you got to protect Dak as well, but I just don't see, him doing well. They may have to bump him inside. They may have burned that first round draft pick, on a high priced guard, and hopefully he can, step up and work on his technique so that he's not being a hindrance to the offense moving forward when it comes to penalties. Now you talk about Green Bay, I was Christian Watson. I was surprised that Green Bay didn't take a shot at him, another big fast receiver, a la Jordy Nelson, somebody to give, Aaron Rodgers, just somebody that, with all the people that he lost, somebody that he can probably, he's past the point of developing receivers, but to give him a receiver with some speed and a bigger body, and he just needs weapons. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do after this draft, as far as getting him weapons. So let me come to you, Lorenz. Who missed the mark in your eyes?
I didn't like what the New Orleans Saints did at all. I don't mind the Trevor Penning selection. I think getting an offensive tackle there, love building through the trenches. Obviously, they had that need at the left tackle spot. Trevor Penning, someone who probably needs a couple of weeks to come in and get acclimated to the NFL game, but he's got the size, and I think in the worst case he's a right tackle for you. Move Ramczyk over, however you want to play it. I thought that was a solid pick, but looking at it from what they did, they gave up a future first-round pick to move back in to get an additional first-round pick this year that they then used to trade up again, so to invest even more capital to select the wide receiver like Chris Olave. Like, I'm sorry, Chris Olave I had graded out on day 2. I like his route running, but outside of that, he's got some speed, but there's not a lot of play strength with him. I think he might have some matchups in the NFL where he struggles. He just doesn't bring that alpha wide receiver ability that I want if I'm spending what did it end up being, 11th overall pick on a wide receiver that I had to sink so many resources in. I just thought that was a head scratcher. That was my least favorite pick of the entire first round. I think Chris Olave, if he would have gone the 20s, that would have been fine value, but you just can't give up that much to select Olave. We all should have seen it coming with how they love players from Ohio State and how they love their wide receivers from Ohio State, but that was just, I just didn't get it. Didn't match what I had. terms of evaluation on Chris Olave. Just gave up too much.
Let me ask you this. I think Jahan Dotson is kind of underrated. I mean, tell me what you think about Jahan Dotson.
He just went 16th overall. I wouldn't say that. I mean,
no, but I mean, before the draft. I mean, before some people had him going in the second round and mid-second round. I mean, yes, I think naturally the draft pick hopefully will validate him being worthy of the pick, but based off his production and what he is, maybe it's more of the size of who he is,
right,
as far as physically, but from a skill set, polish standpoint, I thought he was one of the better ones in this draft. Give me your idea. What do you think about Jahan Dotson?
No, he is. I mean, Jahan Dotson is someone who brings speed as well, who's a good separator. He's tough. He's not scared to go over the middle. I think he's really good catching and running with the football as well. But he is pretty small. I think he's 175 pounds. And he is going to be limited in that regard. Again, not that type of alpha type. And you have Terry McLaurin, I guess. But at the end of the day, you're spending the 16th overall pick on a secondary option in the passing game. Not ideally what I want to be doing, but not a lot of teams did it yesterday, right? A couple teams trading their first-round pick for a wide receiver too. I don't know. It's just not the team-building philosophy that I subscribe to. I still think Jahan Dotson can be a solid player for you. I think he's a pretty safe selection, but at the end of the day, just the opportunity cost of the 16th overall pick, I think you could have gotten some more there, especially if because of that lack of size, he's quote-unquote just a slot receiver for you. I don't mind Jahan Dotson, but again, it was just early for me to pick a wide receiver, and I realized there were only 14, 15, 16 first-round grades for a lot of teams in this draft.
Well, also, with Jahan Dotson going, to Washington, I think Washington got surprised that the Ravens took Kyle Hamilton. I thought Kyle Hamilton was their guy that they were going to take, and the Ravens, the boys up the street surprised them, and took the player that they really wanted, at that spot, which would have been a steal, to get him, at that 16th spot, to get somebody who a lot of people think is a top 5 talent overall, for this draft. So yeah, interesting. And also, what was the Patriots doing? I mean, talk to me, Lorenz. What happened with that? They got, it was odd.
Yeah, I mean, the New England Patriots, they have their own unique process. They eliminate a lot of guys from their draft board. They do not put a lot of guys on their draft board. They look after things like character, leadership traits a lot. Now, they went to Cole Strange from Chattanooga, who I think is a good football player. You turn on his film at that level of competition, he dominates that level of competition, went down to the Senior Bowl, played – did a solid job against the best seniors in the country, can play all spots along the interior offensive line. Part of me loves Bill Belichick, just not caring that everybody's on ESPN. Everybody's going to make fun of him today for picking a guy from Chattanooga. On the other hand, it was a little early for me as well. I don't think this dude would have gotten out of the second round. I think the third round talk is a little bit crazy. You probably could have gotten him a little bit later. But look, this is a team saying turn the card in, saying, look, we don't care. This is our guy. It's part of what has made the Patriots so successful. And look, will he ever be a superstar? Will he ever be a star offensive lineman for them? No, but I do think Cole Strange can be a solid starter going forward, who you probably could have gotten 10 picks later, but I don't think it's as egregious as a lot of people made it out to be. We got to realize, again, this was a draft that most teams had just 14 to 17 first-round grades on, so you were inevitably getting second-round value in a perfect world on the late first round. So keeping that in mind, it was a bit of a reach in my book, but not as crazy as some folks made it out to be.
Yeah, this draft is loaded with has extra players in it, extra talent, because of the COVID year that some of the players got. So they came back to school instead of coming out last year. So some of those players that would have been in last year's draft kind of bundled, with the players that came out this year as well. So you're going to have a surplus of talent right there in the middle rounds. So you're right. I can kind of understand that. So get the guy you like. So and that's and then again, Bill Belichick doesn't have to answer to anybody.
And just making your point, getting the guy you like, just to keep on that. I thought yesterday it was extraordinarily cheap to get up and trade up. You didn't have to spend a lot to jump a couple spots, right? We saw the Eagles; they had to jump the Ravens 2 spots. They just threw a couple of picks of 200s at it, and there they went, right? So kudos to those GMs that identified where they had to get and where they had to go to get their guys without giving up a lot. For example, Howie Roseman, he knew he had to jump the Baltimore Ravens to get his dude, Jordan Davis. He got the job done without paying a lot. They had a bunch of day 3 draft picks. He was like, here you go, right? So, yeah, and there were a couple of other examples. The Chiefs, obviously, as well. You talk about the Detroit Lions, what a ripoff they had of the Minnesota Vikings. In an in-division trade to take a 4.2 40-yard dash wide receiver that might haunt that Vikings defense for years, man. Great move by Brad Holmes, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, Jen. Let me come to you. What player are you most excited for the team that they got drafted by?
I honestly, because I think it's a match made in heaven, I have to say Kenny Pickett. I mean, it made sense geographically. It makes sense all in all. I love, and I know he's a fan favorite amongst a lot of people. I love the guy's story. I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he's probably. It makes sense that he's the only quarterback that went in the first round. I mean, no disrespect to the other quarterbacks as well. I mean, this year's draft has definitely been a lot different than the ones we've seen in the past. But Kenny Pickett, I'm just excited to see what he can do. Hopefully he gets a shot this year. Obviously we'll have to see where things go with Mitch Trubisky, excuse me. But I'm really excited to see Kenny Pickett. I've just been very excited about him all throughout this draft process, and I just wish him all the best.
That's a great analysis there as well. I really want to see what he does. I think that I'm not a fan of Mitch Trubisky, even when he was at Carolina. I was just not a fan of Mitch Trubisky, man. And I feel like you're not losing too much if you put Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky side by side. The rule of thumb is just from a talent evaluation standpoint, if your veteran is here and your rookie is here, you got to play the rookie, because there's not much difference. He's maxed out. His ceiling, obviously has to be higher if the veteran's not much better than him. So you should go ahead on and play the young guy so that he can get in there and start his developmental process early. But that's a great pick. I like to see where he goes. Of course, Steeler Nation is through the roof about it. They are so happy about getting their hometown guy, and they're so proud up there, in Pittsburgh for their players. So we'll see how it goes and see how it goes, especially when training camp starts. Let me come to you, Lorenz, the player you're most excited for based off the team that picked them.
This might be taking the easy way out, but I'll go with the first overall pick. I'll go with Trayvon Walker. Big Law, this was kind of my guy. I was on him for a long time when no one was talking about him this time a year ago. And all the chit-chat, all the chatter, where's he going to end up, right? His meteoric rise, and he was a nobody, and then he runs a fast 40. I think there was a lot more to this process, and the NFL was on him a lot earlier than most of the media members, I think, as well. Where he ends up going first overall, which is even for me last summer. I mean, I wouldn't have expected that. I could have told you maybe top 15. But this is a guy that has rare physical traits, that has rare strength, that has rare athleticism, rare size, and rare length, right? So a lot of things to mix together. But he's now going to have to show it. His progression, his development is not near the ceiling, right? It is for no player coming out of college. Really, all of them take a big leap, but his ceiling is even. I mean, there's even more to scratch for him. Than for most of these other guys coming out. So I'm really excited to see if he can develop in this Jaguars organization, new coaching staff. I'm hoping they're going to bring some stability in there. He's going to need it, certainly. But I'm excited about the prospect of him coming off the edge in the NFL. He was playing a role in Georgia that restricted him a little bit. They were playing the team game there. I think in the NFL, you line up 4 or 5 guys on the line of scrimmage, you just let them go, right? And I'm really fired up to see how Trayvon Walker is going to translate. And I think the Jags, they could get a future or they could have a future difference maker on their hands.
Well, this is kind of a double-barreled 2 players that I'm happy for that got drafted in the top 15. I got to go with the Detroit Lions. For them to get another hometown story, the hometown kid gets to stay, in Michigan, where he went to school, Hutchinson getting picked, number 2. And that was one of the ones when you first knew they were ready for that card. As soon as Trayvon Walker came off, the Detroit Lions were like, here you go. Here you go. This is our guy, and he was available. And it was just great to see him. He gets to stay home, and he was the biggest difference maker. I heard John Jansen, a Michigan player, used to play for Washington. He was given an interview the day or earlier that day, and he was saying if Detroit misses on this, if Aiden Hutchinson is available, they deserve for the next 10 years to be at the bottom if they do not take this kid. They said he is the most unbustable defensive player in this draft. And he may be right with that. The kid has a lot of talent. He can set the edge. He can rush the passer, has a great bull rush on him. Just a player, I don't want to kind of compare him, but this is what we do, Lorenz. I'm gonna have to get a comparison from you, when I'm done here. But also shout out, for Jameson Williams as well. They got him, and they, who frankly, if he's healthy, he's probably the number 1 receiver taken yesterday. So for them to get him, they're gonna have to wait on him a little bit, but for them to get him, I thought it was a good get, for just a talent, just an infusion of talent to their roster. They did really damn well. Lorenz, you talk to me. Tell me, who do you compare Aiden Hutchinson to?
Yeah, I mean, he's a power rusher with a little bit shorter arms. Maybe you're hoping for an impact like a Cameron Jordan has had on the New Orleans Saints, are really one of the underrated players in the league. I think if you can get that out of Aiden Hutchinson, they'd be very happy with it. Might even have a little bit more upside than that. A pretty solid technician. I don't see him on the level. I know a lot of people compare him to the Bosa's. I think the Bosa's were a step ahead of Aiden Hutchinson, ahead of what he was coming out of college. But I think sort of that tier below that type player would make sense if I had to project him to the next level into the NFL.
Absolutely. And of course I saw, George Karlaftis, another Big Ten defensive end who, kind of remind me of each other in some ways, who kind of reminds me of like a Ryan Kerrigan kind of a rusher, even though they both are from Purdue, but he really reminds me of him with the power rush, that he kind of brings. And, it was just good to see all the young men get drafted and just have their opportunity to, in the sun, especially out in Vegas. It was so beautiful. Just it was a match made in heaven. The NFL draft and Las Vegas, Let me ask you this quick draw. Who was best dressed yesterday?
Oh, easily Sauce Gardner. Easily Sauce Gardner. I was taking another look at his whole drip this morning. Oh my gosh, the baby blue tuxedo. Now, like, I love baby blue, powder blue anyway, but like the bottle that said sauce on it, that chain, and then that other chain that said sauce on it. Easily the best dressed. Now, a nice honorable mention has to be Drake London, of course, because I thought he also looked really, really, really nice. But definitely Sauce takes the best dressed pick.
Best dressed,
best dressed yesterday as well.
What about you, Lorenz? Who do you think had the best drip?
Man, I mean, I see it with the skinny guys. I see it with the wide receivers, with the cornerbacks, right? But let me give some love to the big fella, man. Jordan Davis. I kind of like what he had going on with that stripe across the suit, Just a good-looking big dude. You love to see it. And then also I thought Kayvon Thibodeau with his with all the things that he had going on his suit, and then how excited he was, just the personality he is mixing in with it as well. But a lot of guys looking impressive last night, and certainly putting in some work and putting in some thought into their draft day outfit, as they should.
Well, you know who was looking sharp in the suit? Of course, he's built for it. It's Kayvon Thibodeau. I got to give him credit. He tailored down. I said, wow. I said, look how he looks, you know, with that suit on. I said, he's going to give the NFC East headaches for a long time, you know. But he looked great in his suit. So those are the nominees for best drip from the NFL Draft Bible Sports Illustrated team. Second day here on the scene for you guys. So let's keep the bus rolling. So we're talking about day 2 now, rounds 2 and 3 coming up. So right now, and I'm gonna come with you, Jen. So who do you feel is the best available, and what are some of your, well, before we get to the strategies, give me some of your best players available.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I know I went off on a little quarterback tangent earlier, but I'm still kind of shocked to see this. Malik Willis is still available. Obviously, he'd be a great fit for some of the teams that are still looking for a quarterback right now. And it was just kind of shocking to see him fall to day 2. I do get that there's a lot of talent, as we were talking about earlier. There's a lot of talent available in this year's draft, but I definitely saw Malik Willis being somebody who could have gone in the first round. But that being said, he's one of the best I have available. And then obviously another one being Nakobe Dean. And this is something that should perk the ears of so many teams right now, because they still have a chance to get Nakobe Dean, who we definitely thought would have gone in the first round. That was definitely a shock to me. So that's something that when we get into team strategies, it's something that teams should look forward to coming into tonight.
I mean, you're talking about, Kobe Dean, which I really thought he would be gone. He is, quite frankly, the leader, of the number one defense, in the nation. And also,
Right.
I kind of felt like they were the equivalent of the 85 Bears. Their defense from a college standpoint. They had 5 players drafted off of that defense, correct? Yesterday. Yes. Today, they'll probably, and those are all starters. Yeah, the most ever. And they'll probably have another 3 go today off of that defense. So it's like, between Nakobe Dean and, there's another player, 2 or 3 players.
Channing Tindall.
Right.
Seen one yesterday. So
you're looking at possible 7-8 players off a starting defense. That's insane. Go ahead.
They'll have 3 first rounders next year, or maybe even 4 on that defense. So
that's absolutely insane. So you think about it, 5, 6, 7 guys, 8 guys, 7 to 8 guys off of a defense. I just didn't even know how to put that together. But the coach is Kirby. He's going to make sure that he is backfilling that roster, because Georgia right now is where it's at. But let me come to you, Lorenz. Best available.
Yeah, big lot of 17 first-round grades that I had. There's one player still available that carries a first-round grade, and that's Clemson cornerback Andrew Booth. Now, he's sliding down the board because he's got a sports hernia or hernia. Sorry, I'm not a doctor. I forgot what the exact thing is, but you can look it up. He's got medical flags and medical questions. That's why he's still available right now. Going to be a bit of a gamble, I guess, to take him because of those medicals, but I think someone could get a potentially elite cornerback at the NFL level. Also, playmakers offensively. I'm looking at this running back group. We still got Breece Hall available, who to me can be a starting running back out the gate, and then also Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State, who maybe not as a receiver, maybe not on third down, but he can be a first and second down type of guy pretty early on in his career. And then we just talked about earlier the edge rushers. There's a number of good ones on the board here. I'll just give you a couple names. Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State, I thought could have gone yesterday. We got Drake Jackson out of USC, who's got a lot of raw talent. We got Boye Mafe, who dominated down at the Senior Bowl. Great looking 260, a great athlete as well. Someone who I'm really excited about. Go
What
ahead.
about David Ajabo, who
There you go. There's another
who's a
one.
Right.
first round talent?
He would have been off the board yesterday had it not had it not been for that awful Achilles injury. So there's a lot of potential star power still on the board in this edge rusher group. And really looking at this group, I was going through rankings, and there are guys ranked at number 15 where I was like, man, this guy could have an impact in the NFL. So if you need pass rush, today's the day.
Yeah, absolutely right, man. Running backs too. No running back got drafted yesterday in the first round. So, we'll see what some of these running backs go. So I got to come to you, Jen. Malik Willis, right off the top of your head, freestyle. Where do you think Malik Willis actually lands?
I'm thinking about all the teams that are still looking for a quarterback or could probably benefit from a little quarterback talent. The Panthers being one of them. I think it might make sense. Now I don't have the round 2 in front of me, so I don't know exactly where teams fall. I know that Tampa Bay.
I can give it to you. You got Tampa Bay. I'll give you like the top 8 or 10. You got Tampa Bay, Minnesota, the Titans, the Giants, Houston, the Jets, the Bears, the Seahawks. Seahawks twice, actually.
All right. So, from that list, for me, honestly, I'd love to see the Panthers, but that would mean the Panthers would have to be a little aggressive and try to get into that top 8 or 10 kind of spot in the second round. Maybe the Vikings. I don't even know if the Vikings are looking for a quarterback, but I do know that they kind of overpaid, in my opinion, for the quarterback that they've had in the past. And no disrespect to him, but I think it's time to move on and kind of go after some younger talent that they can really build a team off of. And not only that, but with a quarterback kind of salary or quarterback kind of contract, you can really work around that and work well with that. So I could see Malik Willis falling with either the Vikings or the Panthers. The Seahawks might be another option, but that would be something too where the Seahawks would have to play a little aggressive and a little smart in that regard as well.
I can see the Texans at number 5, and in the second round taking a shot at him. I don't really see them, in a position where most people feel like they're going to be really competitive at the quarterback position. I know they took a guy last year, Davis, correct, Lorenz?
Mills, yeah.
Davis Mills. And, but, some people have Malik Willis as the ultimate boom or bust player, in this draft. And I got to ask you, what do you think about Malik Willis, number 1, falling out of the first round? And also, where do you think he falls?
Yeah, it shows that unlike what I expected, teams are not going to get desperate for quarterbacks. It shows that Malik Willis, who I had a second round grade on, granted I had the same on Kenny Pickett, but I didn't have a quarterback rated in the first round. Right? Neither did the NFL, and they weren't willing. Selecting a quarterback in the first round is a big move for a franchise. Usually something that the owner has to sign off on. Usually something that the whole building, including coaches, including a lot of the senior personnel people, have to agree on, and that just wasn't the case outside of the Pittsburgh situation. I think that's going to change today. I'm looking at the Seattle Seahawks with their 2 picks. Reportedly, they love Malik Willis. They love Matt Corral. Looking for either of those 2 to come off the board here. Look for the Atlanta Falcons as well, 2 picks later after the Seahawks have those 2 picks. They could be drafting their successor to Marcus Mariota, who just got there, but is the type quarterback that is probably a replacement level player, right? Also, I was just going to bring him up. Desmond Ridder is another guy who you can't discount, and then maybe a little bit later today, even a Sam Howell out of North Carolina, I think, has a good shot going off the board in the third round.
Yeah, we may have a run on QBs. I don't even know if any. I don't know if any of those guys get out of the second round.
It depends if they all come off quick. There might be someone trading up. Look, if Minnesota takes Willis right with the second pick of the second round, you bet Seattle's going to come up and try to snatch Corral if it's true that they really like those 2 guys, which I think they do.
And then you think about Detroit. There are teams, Detroit, Houston, these places, they still need QBs in Atlanta. So, they're definitely going to it's going to turn into a feeding frenzy once one goes out, and they'll be trying to get to the quarterbacks, in this draft. So we'll keep you guys up to date on that. We'll keep an eye on it. So let's talk about team strategies moving forward. If you want to pick a team, Jen, and and think about what they should do moving forward today with the second, third rounds, and then possibly into tomorrow. What are some strategies from a team? If you want to do Philadelphia, you can do Philadelphia. What do you think moving forward their next strategy should be?
Yeah, I think just because I do follow a handful of Eagles accounts on Twitter, and I've seen a couple of news reports in the past 24 or past 12 hours, really, about what Howie Roseman's next moves are, what he should do. There was a lot of talk that obviously we had 10, or the Eagles had 10 picks in this draft, give or take, and traded a good handful of them away so we could get some of these really good players and get some trade packages going. But Howie, I believe the smartest move for him is obviously to try to get some of those picks back. Whether or not that means Jalen Reagor is involved in one of those trading pick or packages, who knows? I would definitely not be surprised if he were to go tonight, if not tomorrow, involved in some of those trade picks, so that way we can get some of those picks back. Maybe Andre Dillard, but I don't really see Andre Dillard going anywhere. But just trying to do something so we can get some more picks back, because I've seen the stat floating around, or a quote floating around from a lot of people saying that picks 20 through 50, it's basically a level playing field. You got a lot of great talent to work with there. So the Eagles are going to need to capitalize in that 20 to 50 range as soon as possible and try to get some talent, kind of fix some of the places that they struggled to on defense, as well as add depth to their offense.
And let me come to you, Lorenz. Pick a team and tell me, what should be their strategy moving forward.
Yeah, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, who we were a little disappointed by their first round. I think they do have to make the play to get a wide receiver. Now, you're not going to get one of the elite talents anymore because they're all off the board. But I just mentioned Christian Watson earlier. That's someone who you might have to trade up, right? How aggressive are they going to be to get this team? I mean, they're desperate for a receiver, right? They don't have it's a really weak position group for them right now. For a team that wants to be a passing team with Aaron Rodgers, obviously, and who wants to compete for a Super Bowl next year, I think that's enough of a reason to be aggressive and to potentially get one of these guys, whether that's Christian Watson, whether that's Sky Moore out of Western Michigan, who to me really fits what LaFleur likes to do with his run after catch ability. So a lot of options, a lot of different archetypes that they could go for. Just got to do it. Just got to get someone in the building that you like.
How long is Pickens supposed to be out from Georgia?
He's back. He actually played, I want to say, the last 2 games of the season. Love his talent. I think George Pickens has the talent to be one of the best players coming out of or one of the best receivers coming out of this draft class. There are rumblings about his lack of maturity. I actually think his work ethic is fine. They're just those type of voices out there. He could fall all the way to the 3rd round. Man, if someone is comfortable with him and ends up being right about it, that could be a massive steal.
Well, you think about a team like the Patriots. They're the kind of team where they need, a bigger target. They need somebody, who can be a playmaker on the outside, because they're a little lighter receiver when it comes to talent as well. I think was it N'Keal Harry?
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out. So they need to replace that kind of a talent, and they just got a quarterback last year. So definitely somebody to pick up, especially if he starts to slide down the draft board. So let's do this. Let's get our parting shots going because it looks like it's getting close to draft time. We got 8 minutes before the Tampa Bay gets on the clock. Let me come to you. Quick draw, Jen McGraw. What do you got to say in a parting shot?
I'm just really excited for a couple players tonight, but one particular player that I hope gets taken either in the second or third round is Kirby Joseph, a safety out of Illinois. And I have to say this because as an Eagles fan, we are looking for a safety right now. Now, fingers crossed, if everything goes as planned, we could see Honey Badger in Midnight Green or Kelly Green. But I know there's been some talks about Tyrann Mathieu, attempting to come to the Birds or potentially coming to the Birds. But in case that falls through, I would love to see Kirby Joseph in the Midnight Green. He is very versatile. I love his athleticism. And I'm just hoping that if the Eagles are taking a shot tonight to rebuild some of that defensive talent that they need to get back, Kirby Joseph is definitely the way to go.
Well, they got Jalen Petrie out there and Jaquan Brisker as well. So, this is a lot of talent out there. It's just,
right.
It's still loaded with a lot. Lorenz, parting shots.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of talent out there today. There's a lot of opportunity to significantly get better for these teams. I'm really excited to see it. They're going to be quality players going off the board all the way to the third round, guys that are going to have an impact as a rookie. And then another storyline to watch, Baker Mayfield. Does he get dealt today for a day 2 pick? The Cleveland Browns, they didn't pick yesterday. They're up at 44 today. Could they add another pick in that second round to build around Deshaun Watson a little more? We'll find out.
Absolutely. I can tell you, this is the NFL Draft Bible. This is what we do. We're to educate you and entertain you. It's been a blast. I got to tell you, I thank you guys for tuning in and coming, Lorenz and Jen. If you guys want to do something a little later, or are you guys going to be on tomorrow at all? You going to be on tomorrow, Lorenz?
Yeah, tomorrow, if anybody wants to check that out, haven't plugged that yet. On the Twitter account of NFL Draft Bible, I'm going to be taking it over on a Twitter Spaces, which to tune in for that. I'm going to be breaking down every single pick. I'm going to be taking questions. I'm going to be letting some other people like Rick, like you guys, if you want, chime in as well. Really excited about it. I love day 3, and I think those selections are worthy to be covered. It shouldn't be like on the mainstream, on the ESPN, on the NFL networks, where they just do recaps of the first round. I think these young men work for it all their lives. These teams put significant hours and resources into these selections. So let's talk about them. That's exactly what we'll do tomorrow.
Ain't no doubt about it. Just so that we know, are we on tomorrow at 10 or 11?
We got State of Football.
Okay, State of Football. All right. And we'll talk about that offline. Jen, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I'm just very excited. I will be on social medias all throughout the weekend. I've been busy at work yesterday at a radio station covering night 1. Tonight here doing round 2, or rounds 2 and 3 really. And then tomorrow, wherever I'm needed, wherever I can fill in and just talk about, all of the great talent, because like I said before, like with Kirby Joseph and like with some of these other guys that are being slept on, and like Lorenz mentioned, they've worked all their lives, so they deserve to be talked about. These guys have a story. These guys are literally, I can't stress it enough. They've worked their entire lives. So I'm just really excited to see the rest of the talent that gets to go on these respective teams. And I'm loving every minute of it. And I can't wait to just see what happens.
Absolutely. So like I said yesterday, grab your sub, your wings, your hoagies, your beverage of choice. Go sit in front of the TV. We got 2 more rounds up. And I can tell you, we'll be back tomorrow, everyone. But stay tuned. We love you, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. This has been the NFL Draft Bible pre-draft show, day 2 on Sports Illustrated.